you've been around here for a while, welcome back, and if this is your first time here, my name is Avon Van Hassel. I'm a historical fantasy writer. Right now I'm writing a series of fairy tale retellings called The Beanseller Saga, available on Amazon for ebook and paperback. And I'm here every so often, I'm trying to be more regular, to give you tips and tricks for things to try in your writing, or historical gossip, and just basically that sort of thing, to infuse a little bit more history into your writing if you want it, or just things to help you get into a writing habit or how to make your writing better, that sort of thing. So every year I poll my group on Facebook and I ask them what sort of topics they would like to see in the coming year. And overwhelmingly, the most popular topic is time management. And if you know me in real life, you know how funny it is that the backbone of my content is time management, because I'm not very good at it. But you know what they say, those who can't do, teach, right? So I know all the tips, I know all the tricks, and I'm constantly researching new suggestions. So the purpose of this series isn't necessarily to tell you what you should be doing, but to give you a wide breadth of suggestions so that you can find something that works for you. I have talked about the Pomodoro method, I have talked about stealth writing, I have talked about writing rituals. I think next year I'm going to do dictation. So there are all kinds of different methods out there for ways to find time to write, or ways to not waste the time that you have to write, which is, I have both of those. Writing is a very time-intensive occupation, hobby, however you define why or how you spend your time writing. It's time-consuming, right? You have to sit down, you have to think, you have to plot, you have to actually draft, edit, all of that, and then if you're actually going to go to publication, there's marketing, there's betas, there's cover design, there's all kinds of stuff that takes a lot of time. All of it takes a lot of time. And we all lead busy lives. Maybe you have a family, maybe you have a full-time job, maybe you have multiple full-time jobs, maybe you're a carer for someone in your house, and so even though you don't work outside the home, you still don't really have off hours. You know, maybe you do have a lot of spare time, but you just have difficulty focusing, which is something I think in this day and age we can all sympathize with. So we just have a lot of different techniques, a lot of different hacks, if you will, to utilize the time that you have and maybe somehow find ways to fit more time into your day. So today I'm going to be talking about something called time blocks. And I referred on the blog to this as 3 tips in a trench coat, because there are different definitions of what a time block is. So a time block is essentially what it sounds like. It's a chunk of time that you devote to your writing. But there are, to my mind, 3 different ways of doing this. So there is task batching, there is micro scheduling, and there's day theming. And so those are kind of different degrees of technicality, different degrees of strictness, and I guess different degrees of complexity. So I have printed out for you 3 blank planner pages. Now, if you like a physical or a digital planner, most of the ones that you find are going to have monthly pages. Most of them will have weekly pages. Some of them might have daily pages. I have found a lot of them will have weekly pages but not daily pages. I like to have all 3 because my schedule changes very quickly. And so I like to have a macro overview, but I also like to have a daily thing. I like to split it down into hours and to have things to focus on for every particular day and not have to try to fit my messy handwriting into those little bars that they give you. So personally, I prefer a digital planner. Right now I'm using one that I got off of Etsy that's an ADHD planner. And so let me just show you January really quick. So you'll see this is a monthly page, right? And then this is what a weekly page looks like, the days on the side here. And then it does also have individual days. So I like a digital planner because I can have everything in the same place for the same amount of space. And also my handwriting is atrocious, so I like being able to scale up or down the line thickness and whatever to get everything in there. So that's my preference. But for the purposes of this illustration, I'm going to be using printouts. So this is a monthly page. You can see how many cells there are. This is a weekly page, and this is the daily page. And I just got these. These are just templates off of Canva. I don't remember if they were free, to be honest, but I have the membership because I do a lot of graphic design. But like I said, most physical and digital planners are going to have these sections, and they're even more convenient because they're bound or they're digital or whatever. I also have my little bag of highlighters, which is important, and I've got a little pen. So the first method that I'm going to show you is something called task batching, which is what I use for my social media content plan when I organize it at the end of the year. So I do all of my blog posts in November, December. So I write all of them, and that's all I do. I don't do a lot of drafting of my books in that time. I don't do a lot of other stuff. I'm just writing blog posts. So I am writing out the outlines, I'm drafting, I'm editing, and then I'm formatting and scheduling, right? And I will do all of the outlines at one time, and then I will do all of the drafts at one time, and then I will do all of the edits, all of the formatting, all of the scheduling, and I will do it in that order. And I won't, like, I don't work on January 1st and then February and get all the whole thing plotted, written, edited, formatted, and then move on to the next month. I just do the same step of the process 12 times, and then move on to the next step of the process 12 times. So I find it's got its pros and cons. On the one hand, it gets them all done at the same time, and it keeps me in the same headspace of, like, when I'm really pressed in November, I don't have to think too hard. I'm just writing outlines today. I can bash out 6 outlines in an hour, right? And then sometimes I can already get started on the drafting within the same day. The downside of this, of course, is if I had a year like I did in 2023, I might not get, if I don't get all of them done, that means I don't get any of them done. And then I have a whole year with no posts. However, I don't expect, I hope not many of my years are as bad as 2023 was. So that's not likely to happen too often, I hope. So I find task batching to be really helpful because it keeps me focused. I'm not bouncing back and forth between different stages of doneness. I like doing a draft here, doing an outline here, doing research over here, doing edits over here. I'm just doing the same thing across the board, and I get to stay in the same headspace the whole time. That's also, to me, the most flexible, I would say, because it doesn't rely on specific days and times and things. It's just a work day in the week, right, during your work hours. But I do like it because it is very flexible. So the next suggestion I have is micro-scheduling. So micro-scheduling is basically when you are super, super disciplined about where every single hour goes and what you do during that time. So say you have a lot of appointments to get to, right? So you have to take the kids to school at 7 and you have to be to work at 9. Thankfully, both of these things are very close. So you might have from 7:30 to 8:30 free, right? And then you're working and you work from 9 to 1, right? And then you have an hour for lunch and then 2 to 6, right? Which is a long day, but it is what it is. And then you have to go home and you have to cook and have dinner on the table by 7. So, and then you have the evening to yourself, right? So you have that hour in the morning. You might have an hour before you get up to take the kids to school, but you have an hour in the morning and you have your lunch hour, right? So this is when we're looking at the daily planner. So the day planner on this particular one that I have, it goes 6 to 7 and then all the way through to 8 to 9 p.m., right? So 6 to 7 a.m., that might be your coffee. Like you get up at 6 and you have your coffee, and you might have a few minutes to organize your plan for the day, right? So I'm going to say coffee plan, get kids ready. Then 7 to 7:30 is kids to school, and then you have that 8:30, sorry, that 7:30 to 8:30 window. So you can, so 6 to 6:30 is going to be, you have your coffee, you sit down and write your plan out. And then you spend the rest of that time getting the kids ready for school, right? And then 7 to 8. So 7 to 7:30, you get the kids to school, then 7:30 to, we'll say, 8:30. In that first half hour, you can be outlining what you're going to be working on. And then the second half hour, you can be doing a Pomodoro, which is a 25 minutes of writing. I can usually get about 600 words out of 25 minutes if I really like. And I've written about writing rituals before, and I've written about the Pomodoro method before, and I find just having a timer kicks my brain into like, this is work time. And so I am usually able to sit down and just, I guess, basically free write for 25 minutes, but I usually come up with something usable. So I think I've also talked about how inspiration is not a real thing. If you're trying to make a real writing habit, inspiration is great for getting ideas, but inspiration is not reliable for an actual writing habit. Discipline is much more reliable. So I find that training yourself and getting used to starting a timer and sitting down, eventually, for most people in my experience, that helps to sort of signal to your brain that it's writing time. And you actually waste a lot less time than you think you're going to, in my experience. All right, so then 8:30 to 9 is go to work. 9 to 1 is work. 1 to 2, again, we're going to split it up again. So for the first half hour, we're going to be organizing our thoughts and also lunch. And then that second half hour is going to be another Pomodoro. And then we're going to go back to work from 2 to 6. And then 6 to 7, we'll just give that to dinner, right? But then, I don't know how you do it in the evenings. You might have evening time with the family, but there's usually a little bit of time after everybody's gone to bed when you can usually probably carve out another 25 minutes if you wanted to, while everybody's taking showers or brushing their teeth or whatever. It's fine if you don't. If you're a morning person, you might have this Pomodoro in the morning before everybody wakes up. If you're a night person, you might have this Pomodoro at the end. I am a morning person. You're not getting anything coherent out of me after like 2 p.m. It's just not going to happen. So I tend to wake up early and do my writing before everybody gets up, or during my work hours. But just wherever you can fit it in. So if you're doing the math, if you have one 25-minute portion during your day and one 25-minute portion before or after your workday is over, for me, that's over 1,000 words, which, like I said, most are going to be usable. So it feels like a lot to cram in, but there are seconds in your day when you can find time. And I realize everybody's energy levels are different. This method might not work for you. You might be like, no, I need my lunch hour to rest. I need my mornings, I need my evenings. Okay, so this method doesn't work for you. But for somebody out there that it could work for, give it a try. It might be great for you. So that's micro scheduling. That's finding the little pockets of time in your day and putting them to good use. And I really do feel like combining this with a writing ritual or with something like a Pomodoro is really great, because what I hate inefficiency. I hate when you sit down and you're like, right, I've got an hour to write, and then you just scroll because you're just so unfocused. So I find that setting that timer or having a cup of tea or something, just something to signal to your brain, this is not free time, this is not empty time, this is writing time, I find it helps. So the last thing I want to talk about is day theming. And it's funny because back in March 1st, I went to a writers, readers, and publishers fair in Murfreesboro, Tennessee with my friend Faye. And we went to a couple of workshops, and it is funny, I was already doing day theming, but one of the workshops was about utilizing social media, and she actually suggested day theming. So I was just like, I'm on the right track with that one. So this is basically the idea that every day of the week or specific days of the month or year or whatever have specific themes. This isn't so much about what to post on social media, this is about what to write, right? And here's where you can organize which days are for what. So you can have Monday is for outlining, and that's when you kind of make sure that what you've been writing the rest of the week still lines up with what your plan is, and you can decide whether or not you need to change anything, right? So Tuesday can be for, we'll just say Tuesday is for drafting, right? Because, you've already done your outlining on Monday, right? So then maybe Wednesday will be another edit day to make sure that what you wrote on Tuesday was actually worth anything, right? Then Thursday can be another drafting day. Friday can be another edit day. Saturday can be, maybe we'll have Saturday and Sunday be social media days, so that you can either get ideas from social media, or you can do your posts if you're active on social media in a writer's sense, or, just connecting with other people who are writers or creatives or whatever, however you use social media. Or if you just want to have Saturday and Sunday off, just to have your weekend, you can switch it up a little bit so that instead of having Thursday and Friday be your editing days, you can have one of those be your graphic design days, or one of those be a like checking in with your betas, or putting ideas down for the next piece that you're working on. And this doesn't all have to be related to the same work. You can have these for multiple works if you're working on multiple things at the same time. So you can have outlining for one book, drafting or editing for a different book, or for a blog, or for an essay, whatever it is that you're working on. You just theme those days so that right, my whole time that I'm going to devote to writing today is going to be on this specific task. And so that way you're not multitasking, because we do not want to multitask. Because every time you switch tasks, it takes like 10 minutes for your brain to catch up, and you don't want to do that. You want to stay focused on one thing. So there you have it. Those are my 3 suggestions to you: task batching, micro-scheduling, and day theming. I know these are all kind of, your mileage may vary, because you might not have enough time to give each specific day a separate theme. You might not have enough work to do to be task batching. You might not have a free enough schedule to find time to micro schedule. Use whatever works for you, and feel free to combine these, or combine them with other things, or come up with your own system. I think, like I said, my next one that I talk about is going to be dictation, which is using your phone or a voice recorder to basically tell your story out loud and then transcribe it. So that one is going to be tricky, because I'm not very good at that one, but I know a lot of people are. So I hope some of these suggestions have helped. I hope some of them are things that you can use, or things that you're at least interested to try. And as always, feel free to comment in the comment section and let me know which of these work for you and what things you would like to hear me talk about more later. Until next time, bye.